Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're finally going to get a chance to take a look at the Corsair 240 Air. Now Corsair, I've kind of zoomed straight in on the case because you don't want to look at me, do you? Let's face it, you want to look at the case. Now I have got the white one, but they do come in black as well. Now this is an evolution of the 250D really, but obviously it's joining the Air range of chassis because we've got the 540 Air already. The cube case, the one that confuses everyone because the power supply is in the back section. Well, this one's going to confuse everyone as well because this one, I've never had a case where you can take all of the sides off of it completely. And this one, it's great, but from a reviewer's perspective, especially from a video reviewer's perspective, it's going to be an utter mission because, as you can see by the Corsair badge here, you would assume this was the way up. This badge you can actually remove and turn it round because there you've got the top, there you've got the front as it appears here, but just to confuse us, there's also vents on the other side. So you can have it so that you've got vents down both sides, vents in the front, and then your window on the top. So you can have it on your desk. And you can, like I said, you can spin that round, still have the power button, and you can actually look down into the system through the window that's on the top, which I think is absolutely awesome. Now on the front, you do have the power, the reset, little hard drive activity light. You've got two USB 3s there, and then your optical audio. I've shown you that you've got vents all the way around it. What we'll call the back section, or the side, or whatever you want, you do have a mesh panel here which you can have a fan in, and this is a mesh filter for your power supply because the power supply is on the other side of this. And you'll be thinking to yourself, well, what am I meant to do about if I want this on my desk and this mesh is on the bottom? Well, you can actually choose where you put the feet, so you can you make your decision which way you want it orientated, and then you have your feet on it. I'll show you those in a minute, but that's the plain section at the bottom. I'm trying to whiz round this as quick as I possibly can because I've not built it yet, but obviously once we start putting the hardware in it, I need to start doing even more stuff. This is the meshed area for your hard drives and stuff. Your power supply goes in here, and then you've got the vented area at the bottom. We can see that unlike the 250D, which is MATX, this has got 4 slots on it, which means it's made for MATX. So if you're mental enough, you can put 2 graphics cards in, but I really wouldn't if I was you. A graphics card and maybe a sound card would be as far as I would like to go. But anyway, we've got 2 itty-bitty fan sections here. Now, the trouble is with smaller fans is if you fit them, they're generally noisy. So this section, I have to admit, I personally would just have it as like a vented section. What I did mean to you earlier on about it being all being able to come off is because all the panels are technically, you can have it up, round, which way ever you want. You've got screws here for this side, screws here for that side, and then the same for the top and the bottom. And you can see that the ones here are what we would generally be used to as like side panel ones. But obviously we can do that with the bottom as well, and these 2 sides come off. So what I am going to do is I'm going to whiz it all off and then show you the bare chassis. But there's your window. I've left the plastic on it because I've actually not done anything with it yet, but it has got an ever so slight smoke on it to kind of follow with the Corsair theming of their cases recently. I actually personally really like it, or that kind of idea anyway. But like I said, what I'm now going to do is I'm going to take all of the side panels off and I'm going to show you in and around the bare chassis. Okay, so I've taken the window panel off, you saw me do that, and I've done you like an exploded diagram of how things come apart. So if this was to be up here, this is where your power supply is. So you've got this meshed section for your power supply here. And then we've also, like I said to you, we do have a fan intake, and that was something that the 250D was lacking, but it's there should you want it. So you can attach one and have it intaking or expelling air, depending on what you want to do. Now I'm just going to move this off to the side so it's out the way. Now, then we have the bare chassis itself. The two side panel windows are the two side panels are very, very similar. You can just see, and they're actually plastic. It's not metal, it's a large plastic panel, a bit like you would expect with like a front panel or something. You've then got some metal mesh in there, and then behind that you've got some plastic mesh to act like a dust filter. Both sides are pretty much the same, just mirror images, all nice and simple. So we've got that done, and I'm trying to motor. Maybe I should talk fast all the time. Anyway, so this large open area here, you can see that would be where your power supply would go. It's pretty simple really. If we put it down that way, you can see that you've got a couple of rubber nodules there, so you can lean your power supply in, and you've got a nice open area here for your cables and stuff. This section up here is actually, if I spin it round just so that I can try and show you, is for mechanical 3.5-inch hard drives, although you can remove the whole thing if you want to and slide it all out. And just because I want to do it on camera, the screw is really flipping tight. So you can, as you can see, you can remove that section, and then you've got that option, so you can access your hard drives from the back. It's actually really nice and simple. That's where the screws and everything are. So we've got it all in there, all lovely jubbly. Now I'm going to leave this off for just a second because I don't want to bore you by putting it all back on. But also, quite handily, we have a section here in the side for solid state drives, and what you can see is there is a screw, so if you don't want it in there you can remove it. I was looking, there we go, there's the screw for this section, so you can remove them all, and I'm just going to do those ever so quickly now, just so that I can show you it with them gone. Right then peeps, that is our rear section. As you can see, I've removed the mechanical hard drive section from up here. I've removed the 2.5-inch hard drive, solid state drive, whatever you want to call it, section from here. And then I've got an RM750, which all of the RMs are generally roughly the same size. 750 same size as the 850 and the 1000. But anyway, I've got that nestled in there just to give you an idea on sizes and stuff. Also, you can see that with that there, you do get a relatively clear access in for the motherboard cutout that's there for the other side as well. Also, what we get a first clear glimpse of, which is why I've removed it all, is the grommets that we've got through going to the other section of the case. And if I was to pick it up and show you, you can also see that we've got a lot of tabs scattered around to secure your cables with. There's not as many as I might like. There's some more up here. There's not as many as I might like, but something that I was quite impressed with is the fact that all these cables are actually so slim and cut back already. What I can also point out while I'm here trying to grab hold of it is the little tabs here and here to be able to remove the front panel, which I'm just going to do now. Okay, so that's the front panel off, and then round the back you can see that we've got the Corsair, and it's pretty simple. You can just buzz it off. Hang on, and I dropped it like a genius. So there's our Corsair badge removed. You just push it through, and then when you get to the other side you just choose the way that you want it fitted. It snaps in, and then you can have it the opposite way round, all lovely. The only time it really then gets confusing is like the power button and stuff, but the power button looking, it can't be turned around, which is not particularly a problem. You're not really going to be that picky. At least the logo is going to be the right way around. Anyway, from the front we can see that we have two Corsair AFL intake fans, 120 AF 120L intake fans, and then on the other side up here you can see that we've got another one as an exhaust. So if we stand the case up this way, what we can say is that the air comes in the front, and then, or it's always going to be the front, and then technically out what is the roof. But if you wanted to, what you can do, because of these rails on the side that you can see here, this is 120mm fan rail, so you can technically anything that's 120mm you can mount on there. So if you wanted to have, for argument's sake, your MATX board, you can have your H100 mounted towards the front, and then for argument's sake you had your graphics card here and you wanted like a H75 or something with one of the cooling brackets to cool you know, so your H75, you can bolt that in here as well, so you can get a couple of AIOs in here if you want, and technically you can mount them either side as well. Also, if you just wanted to have your H100 coming in the front, and then I'll do it so that you can actually see. If you just wanted it so you had your H100 in the front and then a couple of fans blowing out either side, again, you can do that as well, because these are pretty optional. And also where they're slidable, you're not fixed with where you want to put the fans or anything. You can pretty much slide them up and down and have them wherever you want. Infinite options there. What we can also see is by looking at the side of the case, the lower section is, you know, there's no vents or anything there. There's no vents or anything that side, but when we flip it the other way around, the bottom is completely open, because obviously that's where we need to have all of our hardware and stuff. Now the top is now falling off my desk. I might as well just let it go, hadn't I? Put that back there. So that is our bare chassis. So we've ripped it down to its guts. Now what I'm going to do is adorn it with some lovely black and red hardware, so that we can work out sizes, where can we put the H100, where can we put any extra coolers, and all of that type of thing. Okay then peeps, so we have a basic test system in here. We've got an Asus Maximus 7 Gene in there, H100i in the front. This is a 290X reference card, and we've got the standard exhaust there, but I've added another one in here. Now, I have screwed this one in here, but you can see it's not screwed in anywhere else because it pretty much fouls the motherboard in most of the other places. So, if you are going to use an MATX board and you do want to add anything in down this side, I did think that there would be room to put like a H75 or something in one of those AIO blocks onto your graphics card, but it's going to be very motherboard dependent. Because as I tried to say here, because of the things on the motherboard, the fan actually fouls. We needed like a few more millimeters width. So essentially, by taking a 250D chassis and putting the MATX board in, it's very tight on space. And actually having options on this side for fans is going to be extremely limited, because most boards are going to have either like not necessarily power buttons like we've got here, but you're always going to have other things like your internal USBs and stuff like that. And as you can see on this, I had the fan kind of nestled here. We can't put it on this side any further because it fouls on the SATA. So it's very, very limited on room on that side. So although you can't get all four screwed up in there like you may want, you can still get enough in there to get some air going over this. But one thing that we do still need to remember is we have still got a lot of air coming straight in the front anyway. So you're not going to be starved for air or anything like that. It just means that you're trying to bolt fans in and the like is going to be very, well, not hit and miss, but dependent on what you want to put in there. It also becomes very apparent why we've got these sections with the holes in, and that's so that your fans can breathe depending on where you want to put them. I mean, you can get the fan screwed in at kind of an angle, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a particularly brilliant thing either, because I thought it was going to be brilliant that we could put stuff here. I thought, you know, I was instantly thinking radiators and stuff, but radiators on this side and on the other side are going to be completely out of the question, really. There's just not going to be enough room. But the H100i in the front for an MATX is still very comfortable. I've moved it in. I'm just going to move the camera up a bit. We've obviously got to night time now, and it's why I've got the ceiling lights on. But I've said to you that we've got a 290X in there, and you can see 290X, you could technically, if you want, have your H100 with push-pull. As it stands at the moment, graphics card wise, you'd be looking at a maximum of about 300 millimeters, so 30 centimeters. If you wanted to do push-pull, obviously take 25 off, but I would advise somewhere around the 270mm length. So you will need to take that into account because, like I said, depending on, if you're not going to go push-pull, you're not going to have a problem. If you want to go push-pull, you'll have to be very careful with your graphics card. I would also say stick with a standard width graphics card as well, because obviously your power cables need to go in the like the top on most, and you need to be able to get these over. Something like the Asus MATX 780 or 290X, the newest matrices, which are the black and red ones like this. Basically, if you have a look, these are enormously wide cards, because you've got, obviously it comes out the PCI this much, and then you've got all of this as well. These type of cards, and it's not going to shock anyone, are just not going to fit in this case. What you want is a card that's basically PCI Express or PCI slot width, and then you're going to be fine, because like you still need to get those cables in and everything like that. So keep that in mind as well. Up on this side, obviously, like I said, you've got the fan there. If you wanted to have a fan next to it, again, you're going to be running into some H100 issues. One thing I would say was with the hoses though, I would have the hose at this side, and then it keeps everything out and out the way. You're not going to have to worry about it fouling your graphics card. Got plenty of room for high memory there. Just with the natural curvature of the hose, it all works rather lovely. And I personally think that if you could get a fan here sucking in, then you'd be laughing, but it doesn't really need to be done all that much, because you're going to get so much air coming in this way. Don't necessarily worry about the heat from the CPU or anything like that. You can turn it around if you want though and have it going that way, but just remember, if you've got a graphics card like this, which is a blower, then you're going to be trying to force the air out the back. So it's, you know, you're better having the air going this way. If you've got one that exhausts on the inside, then you could easily rotate the airflow, but then you're going to have a very, and this is the thing to remember, you're going to have a negative pressure inside here. So because you've got more air going out, it's then going to bring air in through all the sides, which means that you're going to end up with it drawing dust and extra air in through all the gaps. If you keep it pummeling through this way with a single exhaust, then because you don't really need to worry about the graphics card as an airflow, then you should, technically should, keep the air flowing out of the gaps and keep the dust to a relative minimum. So with that, we've obviously got plenty of room underneath for massive power supplies. There's ample room for that. You've got your hard drives, you've got your solid state drives. The water cooling is very limited. I would kind of stick with this kind of one. If you did want to go, and this is obviously 25mm, if you did want to go 60mm, you could get a 60mm radiator in the front of this case with a single set of fans and still fit your 290X, but it would be very, very limited on space. And then you'd be constantly, you'd have to have all the reservoirs and all the other mumbo gumbo, like your pump and everything, in the other side. And to be honest with you, when the H100i or the H105 does such a good job of cooling the CPU anyway, unless you're planning on running a graphics card and everything on like a 60mm rad, then I really don't see the point in it personally. But obviously that's all down to your own personal choice and the customization you want to do with your own rig. Just to let you know what it looks like through the window, because I can just do this here now, just to get it on. Obviously you can see that this is what I meant with the cables. So you will need to kind of zip your cables down, make sure it's all nice and tidy. But I really like, and I do mean I really like, the look of the rig with it sat over like that. I think it looks amazing. It's everything out into the, here we go, move back a little bit, everything out in the open. You can see pretty much everything that's going on in there. If you had some cleverly mounted LEDs and stuff in there, this could look the absolute gonads. I properly like this. It's just a shame, and I do mean it's just a shame, that it wasn't that little bit wider. I understand why it's not, because essentially it's the 250D with an MATX board in it. But if it was just that little bit wider so that we could have had another set of fans in there, would have been brilliant. Anyway, right. Yes. Let's, I think it's time to move on. Yes? No? Yes? Yes? Fuck it. Let's do it. Okay then peeps, so moving on to a conclusion. You'll see we've been joined by a black case, which I'll talk more to you about in a little bit. Anyway, so we've obviously got the white and the black, which are going to be available at launch, and obviously you can turn them either way. But let's get the award out of the way. Now I am going to give it, excuse me, the OC3D Gold Award. But it's a bit of yin and yang, and what you need to remember is I can make criticisms of a case from my own personal experience and from stuff that I think could have been done without it necessarily taking away from what the case actually is. There are things that a case can be, but it doesn't necessarily have to impact on what the case itself actually is, and that's only because I understand a lot of different things about the way that these are made. And what you do need to remember is this is technically a 250D that they've just basically wrapped a different skin around. There's many other brands and out there that they do reuse the internals, and sometimes when you go and look at them you can see that that is basically something else, or a different way to attach something on, and it's just the way that the industry works. Bit Phoenix with the Prodigy, they've made an entire range of like 3 different cases with 2 different types of internals out of pretty much is the same basic thing. So this is just kind of an extension on that. I will say though that personally I much prefer the air side of it, so this version of it, to the 250D, which is kind of one of the reasons why I've got no opportunity but to give it a gold award, because I would say it's better than the 250D. The 250D got a gold award, so this technically needs to get a gold award, so that's it. The designs, personally, it doesn't matter whether you have the black one or the white one. The design for me personally is far, the aesthetics of it is far superior to the 250D. The fact that you've got the opportunity to turn it round, so whether you want a tiny little, tower, or whether you want something slightly wider but a lot lower, that side of it is just not necessarily pure genius, but it's, giving us options is brilliant. And what I meant earlier on about it, it can be good and it can be bad, is because of the fact that they've squeezed the MATX in there, it's limited certain other things as well. With the ITX, we obviously didn't necessarily have a problem with the fans and stuff. Now we do have to worry about it's going to be, you could kind of shoehorn a fan in if you wanted, but depending on your motherboard it might not be very pretty. I think it would have been amazing if they could have done it so that you could have had fans in this side like the other side and not necessarily had to worry about it. Now on the internal side of this chassis there's just not room. They've obviously used the 250D internals, so you can't magic space out of anywhere on the inside, but considering that these edges are plastic, or the sides are plastic, and they come out from the case anyway, I'm just unscrewing it so that I can say it's a shame. I understand why it may have made it not quite as nice, but if they could have possibly found some way that they could have made this bigger, slightly wider, so that we could have had fans on the outside and yet still been able to have done that. Yes, it would have meant making the front bigger. I don't know what that would have done with like structural bits inside. Other people probably wouldn't have liked it. I don't know. It's just an idea in my head that it's a way that it would have been something that I personally would have gone, why don't we just give it a try to have a look. Now obviously I'm not part of the design process and stuff like that, but these are just ideas in my head, and I just think it's a shame, because if you could have had that airflow there, this case would have been probably up there with me considering maybe even a better award than a gold. It could have ended up with a TTL White Gold Award, and I've still only ever given that out once. But even though I've got these minor criticism, these are very nitpicky stuff about what happens if they could have done this and what happens if they could have done that. The case itself is still fucking brilliant. It's still, epic. That choice, the colour, the design, there's good airflow, you can get H100 in easily, you can get an MATX board in easily, there's no qualms. You do have to go careful with your graphics card because of that size. As it is with a standard height graphics card in there, you have to wrap those cables around nice and tight so that they don't touch the window, but it's not a difficult job. They do fit fine unless you've got a shitty power supply, and then they might not. Just so that you know as well, just to kind of put this out there, you can get 90-degree fittings for your PCI Express. So if you wanted to do it, you could have them coming out at a direct 90-degree angle, and then you click those power supply cables in so level with the window, and then they go straight down in. Those things are available if you do think about getting this and want to get it. I will say though, that for me personally, the way that my rig needs have changed dramatically. Because I always render in WMV, I don't necessarily need as much horsepower as I thought I may have needed back in the days when I just thought I had to have the most amazing thing that I could chuck inside of a PC. So this type of thing is actually starting to tickle my fancy a lot more recently. In this case, I have to admit, if I was, especially the white one, because I obviously like white stuff, but if I was building an MATX rig, this would probably be the case pretty much up there, if not at the top of my wish list. And it would only then come down to the other bits that I wanted to get in it to work out whether I liked it. But the fact that I can put this on its side like this and look straight down in properly, you know, from a personal point of view, I actually really like it. So it's an epic case. It's definitely a step up from the 250D. I much prefer it. The fact that we actually got it in white when they only ever do the fucking Obsidians in black is just boring, but it's kind of obviously gone on or evolved from the 540 Air. And this leads me on to the next bit. Yes, it's for NDA. Don't ask me how we managed to do it in time, but when the 540 Air came out, we made a Borg cube, which was one of the 540 Airs basically, with a Borg inspired graphics on it. When I first saw the sketches for this, which I believe was late 2013, I said instantly, I need to be getting a black one of those. I want to do a mini Borg giveaway. And we've managed to do it in time. So essentially, boys and girls, we've done a mini Borg, and you can win it. I'm going to put the link underneath. As I'm filming this way ahead of time, and I do mean way ahead of time, I think the NDA is in 4 days time, 5 days time. I've not even made the competition page or anything yet. I will be doing it on Thursday, the day before the NDA, very last minute, but I will put the link in below. I will make a link pop up. Follow the link through and you can be in with a chance of winning a 240 Air. So not only could you win yourself a 240 Air, but you could win one of the first customised one of it. Now, I know people kind of go, oh, it's just got artwork on the outside. Yes, fair enough. It's not some of the amazing mods that a lot of the other very talented guys can do. But when we pulled this out of our arse in a few days just to make sure that we could have it ready to give you guys it in time for the NDA, and we're not waiting months and months for stuff to get fabricated and stuff. This is just, you know, this is our way of doing stuff. And don't, you know, it just takes up our time and our money and stuff. So please don't, you know, please don't pick. Last time it wound me up. It's getting to the point I don't want to do these anymore. But we are giving away a custom case. And there will only ever be one of these. We've only made one. I may do a white one with red bits on like I did with the other one, because I may end up having to use this. But there will only ever be one black mini Borg case, just like there's only one black mini, one black full-size 540. I can't remember which continent it's on, but it's not in the UK anymore. Anyway, so if you fancy a chance of winning that, make sure you click on the link. If you fancy buying one of these, it's got a gold award. What more do you need to know, children? This is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you.